welcome back, everybody. We're ready to resume. You can resume your seats. And the state is ready to call their next witness.
Yes, Judge. The state calls Philip Moranda.
Philip Moranda, please. Good afternoon, Mr. Moranda. If you'll come forward to the front, all the way up to the front, and you raise your right hand, please. The clerk will administer the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
All right, sir, if you'll come right around here and have a seat for me. And you can adjust that microphone as you need, and just be sure to speak directly into it and keep your voice up so we can all hear you, all right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Ms. Corey?
State and spell your name for the record, sir.
It's Philip J. Miranda.
What is your occupation?
I am a crime scene investigator with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been a crime scene investigator?
Approximately 2.5 years.
Okay. And in that capacity, can you go back and tell the jurors about your educational background prior to becoming a crime scene investigator?
I have an associate's in criminal justice from Valencia Community College and a bachelor's in arts in criminal justice from the University of Central Florida.
All right. And what was your specialty when you got your bachelor's?
My specialty was criminal justice, but I also have a certificate in crime scene investigations.
Okay. And what did that involve, the study that you made of crime scene investigations?
It just involved pretty much handling evidence and photographing, documenting scenes. I took a few classes on interviews and interrogations, anthropology, of that sort.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to talk over you. Finish your answer.
Oh, I'm finished.
Okay. Are you a sworn law enforcement officer?
No, I am not.
Now, does the Brevard County Sheriff's Office differ from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office in that they use crime scene investigators, literally CSIs, to do crime scene work?
Yes.
Are there any sworn officers who are part of your CSI unit?
Only my supervisor.
And do you work under his supervision?
Yes, I do.
Once you went to work for the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, did you acquire more on-the-job training as well as classes?
I received a 16 weeks training as part of being employed with the Sheriff's Office.
How do you respond to scenes in general? How are you contacted?
Via telephone, I'm usually on call, and then if something happens and I'm requested, they would give me a call to respond to the scene.
So on a particular Saturday, could you be home and then get a call to respond to a scene?
Yes.
And have you had training in digital photography?
Yes, that was part of the 16-week training program.
And how about packaging physical evidence?
That was also part of the 16-week training program.
Now, if a crime occurred outside of your county, would you rely on both your detectives and the detectives from the other county to indicate to you what they would like to be done?
Yes.
Do you ever make that decision on your own as to what to process or not to process?
At times I do, but since it wasn't our investigation, I did not make that decision.
Right. And let me take your attention back to Saturday, November 24th of 2012. Did you become involved in an investigation that originated out of Jacksonville, Duval County, Florida?
Yes.
Were you called to a home in Brevard County?
Yes, I was.
And as part of your job as a CSI, do you make notes in the normal course of your business?
Yes, I do.
And do you then put those notes into an official police report that stays with Brevard County?
Yes.
And did you all furnish those reports to the lead detective, Mark Musser of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
Do the Brevard County reports bear their own case number pursuant to Brevard County procedures?
Yes, they do.
And when you take those notes and put those into an official report, do they accurately reflect the work that you did on a case?
Yes.
What do you do with your digital photographs?
They are forwarded to our records unit over in Brevard County.
All right.
And they were also forwarded to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, sir. And then with regard to any physical evidence that you processed that day, would you have packaged that and put it into your own property room, or did you turn it over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
They were turned over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
Okay, sir. Now, let me take your attention to that day. What time were you called?
At approximately 4:30 p.m.
And what time did you arrive at this residence?
At approximately 5:15 p.m.
Where in Brevard County is the residence to which you responded?
It was at 257 Ocean Residence Court in Satellite Beach, Florida.
And is Satellite Beach literally on the ocean?
Yes.
Okay, but it's part of your jurisdiction,
Yes, it is.
and your agency covers the entire county of Brevard County.
Yes.
Did you have anything to do with the actual takedown or arrest of Michael Dunn?
No, I did not.
Was that done outside of your presence?
Yes, it was.
And then were you asked to take photographs of the vehicle that was in his garage at that location?
Yes, I was.
And did you take photographs once you opened the garage door? Did you take those photographs after opening the garage door?
I took them while the door was down and then after
Okay.
the garage door was up.
I'll show you those photographs in just a moment. And then did you limit your investigation or your part of the investigation to the garage itself, just outside of the garage, and the vehicle that was in the garage?
Yes.
Did you ever have any need to go inside that residence at all?
Just to make my way into the garage.
Okay. Now, I'm going to show you a series of photographs, sir, that are in evidence. So we'll start with states 98 in evidence. Tell the jurors what that is.
That would be the outside of the residence.
Okay, and the address that's the inset portion of that, to which of those garage doors does it pertain?
To the left-hand side.
And did you understand that to be the residence of Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Okay, and you took this picture prior to going into the garage?
Yes.
Okay. And you said, well, then did you enter the house to come around and open the door?
Yes, I did.
Okay, let me show you State's Exhibit 99 in evidence. Explain that photograph to the jury.
That would be a photograph of the vehicle once the garage door was open.
Did you see any damage to the rear end of this vehicle, on Michael Dunn's vehicle?
No, I did not.
Let me show you, sir, State's Exhibit 100 and explain that to the jury.
That would be the front driver's side of the vehicle.
Did you see any damage to the front driver's side of Michael Dunn's vehicle?
No, I did not.
State's Exhibit 101 in evidence. Is that both a photo of the back of the vehicle and a close-up of the tag?
Yes, it is.
And what was the tag number that you documented in that photograph?
937 VMV.
All right, sir. And Your Honor, at this time, may I display the evidence that was put in earlier, the brown bag with that tag number on it?
Yes, ma'am.
The jurors can see it while this photo is up. And I'm referring to State's Exhibit 170 in evidence. Thank you. Detective, let me ask you then to look at the next photograph number, hold on, my eyes can't see that far, 102, and describe that to the jury, please.
That would be the rear driver's side of the vehicle.
All right. Did you ever see any damage to this portion of Michael Dunn's vehicle?
No, I did not.
States 103 in evidence.
That is the interior side of the front driver's side door.
Were all of the exterior photographs taken before you yourself opened that door?
Yes.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. Were you ever asked at all to process the outside of Mr. Dunn's vehicle?
No, I was not.
Were you ever asked to look for fingerprint evidence on the outside of his vehicle?
Nope.
Were you asked to look for any stray evidence of a shooting on the outside of his vehicle?
No, I was not.
All right. Did you limit your portion of this case to photographing and looking inside the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Okay, let me take you then to State's Exhibit 104. Describe that area to the jury.
That is the front driver's side seat and floorboard.
Okay. And now, when we were preparing for trial on State's Exhibit 105, it's in the wrong spot. 105 is the original photo I showed you last night, and what did we notice?
We noticed that the square was in the wrong spot.
The little square.
Yeah, the little square.
All right, but the picture itself is accurate, is that correct?
Correct.
And the big square is accurate, it's just turned slightly.
Correct.
Okay, so now let me go to 105R, which is just the revised red boxes. Can you explain to the jury what you found in that location in Mr. Dunn's driver's floorboard area?
I located a cartridge casing.
Okay. And is it hard to see in that little square?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So does the inset photo in States 105R accurately reflect that shell casing?
Yes, it does.
And did it run along the bottom portion of the mat as opposed to the side portion?
Yes.
So 105R is the accuracy with regard to the red boxes, but the picture is the same. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you, sir. And then did you take a close-up of the shell casing itself?
Yes, I did.
And is the purpose of 105 and 105R to show the casing in relation to the seat?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, the close-up, of course, 106, can you tell the jurors what the object to the left, first circle the shell casing. Okay. Now tell them what the object to the left is.
That would be the floor mat of the driver's side floorboard.
And what is the object to the right of the shell casing?
That is a portion of the driver's side seat.
Okay. And did you remove that shell casing and preserve it for evidence?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Let me take you to state, would you erase? Thank you so much. States 107, what portion of the vehicle is this?
That is the rear passenger side of the vehicle.
Okay. Did you see any damage to the rear passenger side of the vehicle?
No, I did not.
States Exhibit 108, can you tell the jurors why you took a photograph through the right passenger window?
I took that photograph because that is what I saw once I focused my attention to the driver's side or the passenger side of the vehicle.
Was that glove box open when you got there?
Yes, it was.
And is that photograph through the closed window of the right passenger door?
Yes.
Let me take you then to States 109 and explain your orientation on this photograph.
That is the firearm that I noticed inside of the glove box, and I was outside of the vehicle again with the window closed.
Okay, why would you take the photos from outside the vehicle?
To show that that is what I first saw when I approached that side of the car.
Had anyone in your presence opened this right passenger's door prior to you taking these photos?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. And then did you open the door?
Yes, I did.
Let me show you States 110 in evidence and ask you to explain that photograph to the jury.
That is the front passenger seat, floorboard, and the open glove box with the firearm inside the glove box.
Did you touch any of the items in the glove box prior to taking this photograph?
No, I did not.
Okay. States 111 in evidence.
That is a photograph of the firearm inside the glove box.
And what type of firearm is that, sir?
It was a Taurus handgun, 9mm.
Is that considered a semi-automatic weapon?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And let me take you then to States Exhibit 112, and can you explain that composite exhibit to the jury?
When I removed the firearm from the glove box, I placed it in an evidence gun box, and I took a photograph of both sides of the firearm while it was in the holster.
And for further explanation, the sort of grayish background with the small dots, explain to the jury what that is.
That is the gun box that I sealed the gun in.
All right. And that would be a front and back photograph in number 112?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Let me show you States Exhibit 113 and ask you to explain that composite photograph to the jury.
That is a photograph of the firearm once I removed the holster, and it was also inside of the gun box.
All right. And at this time, had you done anything with the magazine?
No, ma'am.
All right. States 114 in evidence. Can you explain that photograph to the jury?
Those are the identifying marks on the handgun.
And what are those identifying marks?
It's a Taurus PT99AF 9mm para, and the serial number right below that.
And can you read off that serial number?
THB 16107.
And at this point, had you removed the magazine from that gun?
No, ma'am.
States 115 in evidence. Can you explain that composite photograph to the jury?
That would be a photograph of the magazine removed from the gun.
And is that both a front and back view of that magazine?
Yes, ma'am.
States 116, that photograph.
Those are the 5 cartridges removed from the magazine.
Were those the only live rounds that you removed from that magazine?
Yes, ma'am.
And at this point, did you do any further searching of the glove box?
No,
to
ma'am.
look for any more ammunition?
No, ma'am.
Were you aware that this vehicle was going to be turned over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
Yes, I was.
States 117 in evidence. Can you explain that photograph to the jury?
That is the head stamp of one of the cartridges removed from the magazine.
And explain to the jury what you mean by a head stamp.
The head stamp identifies the manufacturer and the caliber of the bullet or the
Right.
cartridge.
And can you read that head stamp to the jury as it's displayed in the photograph?
It's Win 9mm Luger.
With regard to States Exhibit 118, explain that photograph composite to the jury.
That's a photograph of the firearm with a measuring device on the bottom of the photograph and the slide locked back.
Okay. Explain to the jury what you mean by having the slide locked back.
The top portion of the firearm was locked in the back position just to show that it was safe and was not loaded.
Okay. And did you have any problem with the mechanism on the slide?
No, I did not.
Putting in that position. And with regard to States Exhibit 119, explain that exhibit to the jury.
That is a front and back photograph of the holster.
States Exhibit 120,
Those are the 5 cartridges removed from the magazine with a measuring device.
what type of measuring device is that?
It's just a scale that we use.
And in what format is it? Inches, metric?
Centimeters.
Centimeters. Thank you, sir. And with regard to States Exhibit 121 in evidence, can you explain that composite exhibit to the jury?
That would be the hollow point projectile in each cartridge and the head stamps of each cartridge.
States 122,
That is the cartridge casing I located on the driver's side floorboard.
from your purpose of searching the inside of the vehicle, is this the only shell casing that you found?
Yes, it was.
And for your purposes of looking at the inside of the vehicle and just the gun that you found, were those live rounds the only ones you found, the ones that came out of the magazine?
Yes, they were.
Were you asked to do any more thorough of a search than that?
No, ma'am.
When you remove these items, and let me show you States, I'll be showing you another exhibit in just a moment, did you package them yourself?
Yes, I did.
Did you put your initials on those packages?
Yes, I did.
What time do you think you left the scene, the residence?
It was at approximately 6:30 p.m.
Did you keep those items in your custody when going down to the Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, they were.
And did you document what you had actually packaged and were going to be turning over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
Okay. How did you document that?
I documented on a Brevard County Sheriff's Office property receipt.
And does your receipt reflect that all of the items you've just testified to in front of this jury were put into evidence and then turned over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
Did your department also turn the entire vehicle over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
Were you asked to drive that vehicle back to Jacksonville?
No, I was not.
To your knowledge, how was that vehicle going to be transported from Satellite Beach to Jacksonville, Florida?
It was to be towed.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to offer the items that were depicted into evidence, and I've shown Officer Rupert it's a composite exhibit. It states 194, and it is locked, and also there is a strap through the gun, and he's checked that for me. He actually took the gun out and
All
checked
right, so you need him to help you display it?
I would love that, yes.
All right, Officer Rupert, if you'll help do that, and we'll publish those items to the jury.
Judge, Mr. Stroll has seen this exact exhibit.
All right.
So, this is state 194. May Mr. Moranda step down, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moranda, I'm going to ask you to pull this box out, and I'm going to ask you to show these items. Can we put it up now?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'll ask Officer to stand by. Let me ask you to start with the holster. Is that the holster that you just showed the jury? Yes, it is. And does that holster have a strap on? Just a clip. And what is the purpose of the clip? Is there anything about that holster that would impede a person from pulling the gun straight out?
No.
And the next exhibit is the shell casing. Is that the shell casing you found on the floorboard?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you attempt to do any processing or preserving of that other than packaging it and turning it over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
No, ma'am.
And this next item, please.
That'll be the firearm casing located in the magazine.
And then let me ask you to take the magazine out. It's on the loop out. Tell you what, we'll leave it in there. You explain this to the jury now.
That would be the magazine that was located in the magazine mode of the firearm.
Now, in the photograph that showed bullets coming out of the top, can you explain why it showed a bullet up at the top?
Because the magazine is loaded with cartridges, and every time the trigger is pulled on the firearm, a shot is fired, and a cartridge would be automatically loaded into the chamber of the firearm.
Is it fair to say that's done by a spring action?
Yes.
And then also, please. And sir, is this the Taurus 9mm that you removed from Michael Dunn's glove box? Can you look at it, please?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
I need you to speak up so our court reporter can hear you.
Yes, it is.
And does it bear the same serial number and description that you testified to earlier?
Yes, it does.
May I display?
Yes, ma'am.
And Judge, I'm going to turn it around and walk it back, if that's all right with the court.
Yes, ma'am.
See both sides. Thank you. Would you please?
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this would be an exhibit that you'll also have an opportunity to review later. It will be put back in the box and locked, obviously, but you would be able to view it from whatever side you wanted.
May I ask just a question? Do you need this left out?
You can slide it out, you can slide it in.
Thank you. And just a second now.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moranda, did you have any further involvement in this case?
No, I did not.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Stroll, across.
If it pleases the court, Judge.
Yes, sir.
Technician Miranda, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good. You testified with Ms. Corey that you graduated University of Central Florida in 2009, correct?
Correct.
And it's not a specialty. You graduated with a major of criminology,
Criminal justice.
criminal justice. Kind of synonymous terms?
Sure.
Okay. And then you got a certificate of crime scene, correct?
Correct.
But you weren't hired with Brevard County in 2009, isn't that true?
No, I was not.
You didn't get hired until 2011.
That's correct.
And you worked for Disney World for 2 years before you got hired for Brevard County, correct?
That's correct.
And you basically did food inventory in the park, right?
That's correct.
And as of the time that this occurred, I believe it was November 24th, 2012. Is that correct?
Correct.
How many homicides had you helped process or investigate as a technician for Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
I would say between 5 and 10.
And out of those 5 and 10, you were lead on only about 1. True?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, we see that you processed it and you took some evidence. An agent, a homicide agent, actually helped you process the vehicle, correct?
That's correct.
And that was agent, I believe, Samock,
That's correct.
for the record, S-I-M-O-C-K. And at that point, Agent Samock was pointing out evidence to you, correct?
Correct.
And you were photographing it?
Yes.
And part of what you photographed is what we have here?
Yes.
Now, as you explained with Ms. Corey, you said that you never took the magazine out when you took the photographs. Is that correct?
Correct.
Well, when did that magazine come out?
It came out after I photographed both sides of the gun.
All right.
Firearm.
Let me ask you this. Is it not standard operating procedure to make sure a weapon is free and safe and clear of a bullet in the chamber before you pull it out of a holster?
Yes, it is.
Tell the jury, isn't it true Agent Samak actually made sure it was safe and clear before you pulled it out of the holster?
Yes,
He actually took the magazine out of the gun, isn't that true?
that is correct.
And when he took the magazine out of the gun, all of those 5 bullets were in the magazine, is that correct?
The way I remember it, yes,
And that's what you put in your report,
that's correct.
all right? So explain to the jury, if you eject that little button there and it ejects the magazine out the bottom, and there's 5 rounds in the magazine, you only found 5 rounds total, correct?
Correct.
That means nothing was in the chamber.
That's what that would mean, yes.
That means the gun's not ready to fire,
Correct.
all right? You'd have to then cock it to then make a live round enter that chamber, is that correct?
That's correct.
So at that point, when you found it the very next day, there was not a live round chambered in what we call one in the hole. You familiar with that term?
Yes, sir.
All right, and there was nothing in the hole or nothing chambered.
The way I remember it, that's correct.
And that would mean the gun was made safe for somebody to handle it prior to you getting there.
Correct.
And when you got there, the glove box was open, is that correct?
That's right.
All right, and when you got there, you said the garage was down.
Correct.
Do you know when the garage came down?
No, I do not. It was closed when I arrived.
All right, do you know if the garage was open before you got there?
I do not know.
And nobody told you that?
Nobody told me.
You're just going on based of what you saw
Correct.
and what you were told.
Yes.
Now, who told you only to do the interior of the Jetta?
That would have been the homicide agents that were on scene.
You talking about from Brevard County or Jacksonville?
A little of both. It would mostly would have been Jacksonville.
It was their investigation.
Correct.
They were kind of the big dogs. It's their backyard.
Right.
Even though it's on your turf, it's their investigation.
Right.
And they told you process just the interior of the Jetta, correct?
Just to search the interior of the Jetta and recover the firearm and any casings inside.
And you did that.
Yes, sir.
And you took everything what you believed out of the Jetta, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what other agents in your office found a couple days later?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm waiting for the ground, Your Honor.
Me too.
The grounds would be, it's outside of the scope of this witness's knowledge. It would be speculation.
Sustained.
Are you
Also
aware?
be hearsay.
Well, it's not hearsay, Judge. Do you have personal knowledge of if other evidence was found in that car after you searched it?
Yes.
And what was found in that car?
But hang on, Miss Corey's on her feet. Let's see where we're going.
Objection, he earlier indicated by his agency. Maybe he needs to, maybe a specific date.
Are,
Let me withdraw my objection. It's all coming out anyway, but let me withdraw. I don't have.
Then go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let me rephrase the question and repeat it. Isn't it true that after you searched the vehicle and found this evidence,
Right.
your agency found an 18 or 15 or 18 round clip, 15 I believe, in the same vehicle you processed?
That's correct.
And they found it in the same glove box where you found all of this evidence?
That's correct.
And that was after you processed it with another homicide agent?
After I searched, yes.
And, well, did you search it? Did you process it? It's kind of the
Yes,
same thing.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Would you agree?
Yes, sir.
All right, you were there to process the evidence,
I was there to search for evidence.
and whatever evidence you found, you processed it,
I packaged it, yes. I
Okay.
didn't necessarily process it.
and you missed another clip in that same glove box.
Yes.
And that was found days later.
Not exactly the time frame. I'm not sure of the time frame it was found, but I do know it was found.
And did you secure that vehicle once you left?
When I left, the vehicle was in the garage, placed back in the garage.
So you didn't put any tape around it? You didn't tell anybody not to drive it? The police didn't say we want it? Nothing like that?
I didn't put tape. I was just told we were done here, and then
And who told you you were done there?
pretty much the JSO agents.
And those are the Jacksonville homicide detectives?
Yes, sir.
Did they ever tell you to process the outside of the vehicle?
They never asked me to, no.
Are you aware if any evidence was found on the outside of that vehicle?
I do know that there was evidence found on the outside.
And those were casings that somebody found on the same vehicle that you guys walked around that day?
Correct.
But nobody found it because nobody was told to look there?
Correct.
Nothing further, Judge.
Miss Corey.
Just to clarify, do you know whether or not the further evidence that was found was processed or found by your department or by our Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
That I do not know. It's just when I was told that it was found, I must have misunderstood the information given to me that it was found. I must have interpreted that that person that told me found it.
All right, sir. But you did what you were asked to do on that day by your detectives to whom you answer. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
May he be excused?
I need to know yes, sir, because he's an out-of-town witness.
Mr. Stroller?
So excuse, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Rachel?